trust. The willingness to be vulnerable to others is an expression of faith that they will do the right thing. It is how hope lives between people by eroding trust. Cynicism steals our present together and dampens the future. We can imagine cynical beliefs eat away at relationships, communities, economies, and society itself.
64,000 is the median number of words per book. Average person reads about 200 words per minute. Simple math will tell us that is one book in 320 minutes. To accomplish this in 7 days, numbers say you would have to read for 45 minutes a day. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification button, like, comment, and share. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Book of the Week series. Every week as I read another amazing title, I share it with the world. My name is Igor S.F. Walker. Today, we look at Hope for Cynics, The Surprising Science of Human Goodness by Jamil Zaki. So how about you slow down and relax? Reduce all that noise for just a bit. Make that choice and decide to listen. In this video, we discover the secret for beating back cynicism, hopeful skepticism, thinking critically about people and our problems while honoring and encouraging our strengths. Far from being naive, hopeful skepticism is a precise way of understanding others that actually can rebalance our view of human nature and help us build a world we truly want. So stick around till the end. I will share with you some tools I do have and use that will help you tremendously in this game of life. Discover a way to find out what actually motivates you, what innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. I will share some tools to improve your self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. We have discovered that most people value compassion over selfishness, that donating money activates similar parts of your brain as eating chocolate does, and that helping others through their stress soothes our own. The message of this work is simple. There is good in us, and it does good for us. Scientists are sometimes drawn to what they have trouble finding in their own lives. Exploring decades of research, I've discovered that cynicism is not just harmful, but often naive. Hope and trust, by contrast, are wiser than most people realize. They are also skills we can build through habits of mind and action. Compared to now, 1972 America was a trust utopia. That year, nearly 50% of Americans surveyed by the GSS agreed that most people can be trusted. By 2018, only 33% felt that way. If trust was money, its plunge would match the stock market's fall during the Great Recession of 2008. But unlike the economy, the trust recession has seen no recovery, nor is mistrust merely an American problem. An international survey conducted in 2022 found that in 24 out of 28 nations surveyed, most people said their tendency is to distrust others. Humanity has lost faith in humanity and lost even more in our institutions. Between the 1970 and 2022, the percentage of Americans who trusted the presidency fell from 52% to 23%. Newspaper from 39 to 18. Congress from 42 to 7. And public schools from 52 to 28%. When I describe cynics, you might conjure up a certain type of a person. The toxic, smirking, misanthrope, oozing contempt. But they're not a fixed category, like New Zealanders or anesthesiologists. Cynicism is a spectrum. We all have cynical moments, or sometimes cynical years. The question is, why so many of us? Why so many of us end up here even if it hurts us? Myth number 1. Cynicism is clever. What is the opposite of a cynic? That's easy, a rube, chump, or mark whose naive optimism sets them up for betrayal. Now, this stereotype reveals what most people believe, that cynics are smarter than non-cynics. Now, most people are wrong. In fact, cynics do less well at cognitive tests and have a harder time spotting liars than non-cynics. Myth number 2. Cynicism is safe. See, every act of trust is a social gamble. When we place our money, secrets, or our well-being in someone else's hands, they do have power over us. Most people who trust will get burned at some point. By never trusting, cynics never lose. They also never win. Cynicism protects us from predators, but also shuts down opportunities for collaboration, for love, and for community, all of which require trust. And finally, myth number 3. Cynicism is moral. Isn't hope a privilege? Not everyone can afford to assume the best about people, especially if they have been harmed by a cruel system. In a world full of injustice, it may seem heartless to tell victims they should look on the bright side. Maybe optimists hope-wash problems, while cynics actually shed light on them. Now, this idea is intuitive, but backward. Cynicism does tune people into what is wrong, but it also forecloses on the possibility of anything better. Why then do anything? Cynicism is not a radical worldview. It is a tool of the status quo. This is useful to elites and propagandists, sowing distrust to better control people. According to an ancient myth, hope arrived on earth as a part of a curse. Prometheus stole fire from the gods, and then Zeus avenged the theft with the gift. He actually commanded Hephaestus to mold the first woman, Pandora, and then presented her to Prometheus' brother. Pandora, in turn, was given a clay jar, which Zeus told her never to open. Curiosity got the better of her. She lifted the lid, and out flew all the world's ills, sickness and famine for our bodies, spite and envy for our minds, war for our cities. Realizing her mistake, Pandora slammed the jar shut, leaving only hope trapped inside. Now, scientists think of hope differently. The psychologist Richard Lazarus wrote, "To hope is to believe that something positive, which does not presently apply to one's life, could still materialize." In other words, Hope is a response to a problem, not an invasion of them. If optimism tells us things will get better, hope tells us they could. Optimism is idealistic. Hope is practical. It actually gets people a glimpse of a better world and then pushes them to fight for it. Now, shortly after his diagnosis, Emil wrote to Stephanie, "As a neuroscientist, I learned that our brains don't really see the world, they just interpret it. So losing my body is not really a loss after all. What I am to you is really a reflection of your own mind. I am and always was there in you." One powerful tool to use to fight cynicism is skepticism, a reluctance to believe claims without evidence. Cynicism and skepticism are often confused for each other, but they could not be more different. Cynicism is a lack of faith in people. Skepticism is a lack of faith in our assumptions. Cynics imagine humanity is awful. Skeptics gather information about who they can trust. They hold on to beliefs lightly and learn quickly. In a study after a study, most people fail to recognize and realize how generous, trustworthy, and open-minded others really are. The average person underestimates the average person. Optimism is a theory that the future will turn out well. Pessimism is a theory that it will not. Optimists pay attention to good omens and take risks. Pessimists focus on bad signs and play it safe. Cynicism is a theory that people are selfish, greedy, and dishonest. See, beliefs are assumptions or conclusions. Values are the parts of life that bring a person meaning. Beliefs reflect what you think of the world. Values reveal more about yourself. Now, confusing these two can be very dangerous. Very dangerous business when someone attaches their self-worth to a belief, political, personal, or otherwise. They desperately need to be right. Challenges to what they think and feel like threats to how they think. It's almost like evidence that they're not smart or good enough. The person screaming loudest is often most fearful that they are wrong. Now, one way out of this trap is through focusing on our deepest values. If we want to rebuild trust in our relationships and in our communities, we must also trust ourselves. Listening to that voice that speaks to us from the inside when the rest of the world is silent. If cynicism were a pill, the warning label would list depression, heart disease, isolation. Otherwise, it would be poison. So why do so many of us swallow it? One reason is that many people think cynicism comes with another, more positive side effect, intelligence. This is a myth. Readers were asked to assign one of two managers, Sue or Colleen, to handle interviews moving forward. Both were equally competent, but Sue views people very positively, and her default expectation is that everyone she meets is basically trustworthy. Colleen begs to differ. She thinks people will try to get away with anything they can. Now, 85% chose Colleen as the new interviewer, confident she would be better at spotting liars. Now, most of us valorize people who don't like people. But it turns out cynicism is not a sign of wisdom. And more often it is actually the opposite. In studies, over 200,000 individuals across 30 nations, cynics scored less well on tasks that measure cognitive ability, problem solving, and even mathematical skills. Cynics are not socially sharp either, performing worse than non-cynics at identifying liars. Now, this means 85% of us are also terrible at being a lie detector. We chose choline to get to the bottom of things when we should have joined Team Sue. In other words, cynicism looks smart, but it isn't. A growing science finds that real wisdom arises when people know what they do not know. Likewise, social wisdom doesn't mean believing in everyone or no one. It means believing in evidence by thinking less like a lawyer and more like a scientist. And despite the different instruments they use, all sorts of scientists share one intellectual tool: skepticism, the questioning of old wisdom, and hunger for more information. Skeptics update their beliefs with new information, allowing them to adjust to complex world. See, the comedian George Carlin once said, "Scratch a cynic and you will find a disappointed idealist." The power of adversity to build kindness is old, and it's everywhere. In the weeks after an assault, most survivors report greater empathy. Members of war-torn communities cooperate more freely than those from other towns. In laboratory studies, people who have gone through greater suffering are more likely to help strangers. Why does pain close some people up and open others up? Well, lots of things matter here, but one is community. Depression and anxiety blanket us in negative assumptions about ourselves. Cynicism does the same for our beliefs about one another. Both are rooted in pain, and both freeze us in place. But actually underneath that bad news is good news. Cultivating a more positive outlook does not require anyone to force a smile, to lie to themselves, or fake it until they make it. Exchange relationships are most at home in the free market. We trust someone that they will give us the product that we paid for, or that they will honor a contract because it is in their interest to do so. As the economist Charles Schulz puts it, market-like arrangements reduce the need for compassion, patriotism, brotherly love, and cultural solidarity. Schulz meant this is a plug for the virtues of the market, but accidentally, he actually named one of their downsides. Markets are driven by self-interest, and they make it easy to perceive self-interest everywhere. In the early 2010s, social media platforms were celebrated as the reinvention of global community. By now, it is clear they are markets dressed up as communities, encouraging a transactional form of friendship. Now, if markets have crept into friendship, they have bulldozed their way into romance. At the turn of the 20th century, 5% of partners met online. By 2017, near 40% did, dwarfing any other form of matchmaking. Now, there's nothing wrong with an enthusiastic right swipe, but apps like Tinder, with their infinite supply and split-second choices, change the way our minds process attraction. Now, Tinder founders modeled their app on slot machines. Love might be a game, but online it is a casino, with each person calculating odds and placing bets. We are given chances to optimize every facet of our lives, but we are not warned about how truckloads of data might actually alter our relationships. Those data, meanwhile, have created unthinkable wealth for the largest companies and the richest people on the planet. We are one of the most profitable products in history. The sociologist Emil Durkheim describes a modern condition called anomie, a breakdown of social values and expectations. Anomie is different from the disappointment you actually might feel when one person lets you down. It is the sense that society itself has betrayed you. Living in a world that feels more transactional, unfair, and selfish, each year can grind away our hope, and indeed unequal, corrupt, and commodified settings all give rise to anomie. On the other side, the science of well-being is very clear. To thrive, human beings need unquantifiable experiences pursued for their own sake. Like a favorite hobby, communal ties can be blissfully useless. In a marketized world, this means purposefully erasing the way we usually connect by uncounting. You don't have to count everything. See, one mother who generally trusts people herself said, "It is crazy, but we have to teach our kids not to help. So unfortunately, the first thing to teach my daughter was to be cautious and only talk to known people." Now, these parents try to keep their kids safe by making them feel unsafe. A strategy that is all too effective. In 2012, only 18% of American 12th graders believed that most people can be trusted. 12%, making Generation Z the least trusting one on the record. The trust deficit might actually arise because people are growing more cynical, or because older people are being replaced with younger ones who actually learn cynicism early on. Teaching our kids pre-disappointment. Perhaps that will keep them safer, but it will almost certainly shrink their worlds and diminish their trust. When you lead or care for someone, you create their pre-existing conditions. This is especially true for children. Negativity bias shapes how we experience the world and one another. People pay more attention to untrustworthy faces than the trustworthy ones, and remember suspicious characters more clearly than the wholesome ones. When people do read about someone who commits both good and bad deeds, they judge that person as immoral, as though his worst actions are the best evidence about his character. You see, human beings are ravenous for information about one another, but nature had made us crave bitter social calories. Bad behavior grabs our attention, and we talk about what or who is on our mind, focusing chatter on the negative. As whispers spread, negative stories multiply and positive ones disappear. This game of telephone leaves people more cynical in trying to protect their community. Gossipers give one another the wrong idea of who is actually in it. See, mainstream outlets tend to focus on people in power and the lengths they are willing to go to actually keep it. Asset-framed stories tend to feature everyday people, and many of them from underserved communities helping one another. Byron puts it, most of the good stuff is always local. The stories, and these stories, and hundreds of others, show readers, watchers, people like themselves taking charge in a way that they can and where they can. Instead of sucking people into cynicism, they actually provide a window into possibilities. Take national and global problems head on, while centering the dignity and the power of citizens to make change from the ground up. Solutions that work in one place can provide a blueprint and positive pressure to many others. If one town or one state manages to increase college application rates or decrease reincarceration, then readers might wonder, why can't mine? So take a couple of extra steps. While reading a negative story, I do remember that just like most human beings, I am biased towards badness. And that news companies use that to hook me. Now, this brings on hopeful skepticism. Might there be another side to the story? Or at least some reason for hope? See, Maya Angelou once advised, when people show you who they are, believe them. But what people show you depends on who you are. It turns out people are terrific at getting others to do things, but terrible at realizing their own power. We underestimate our influence on others' helpfulness and on their harmfulness. People don't always find a way to abuse systems. They actually just fight back when systems and people abuse them. This is yet another way cynicism traps us in cycles of anger and aggression, each person swearing the other person started it. The good news is that preemptive strikes can set off a negative self-fulfilling prophecy. Then, by making different choices, we make bend reality the opposite way. You see, change is a central organizing principle of neuroscience and Buddhism, too. Not that we are able to change, but that is how brains are fundamentally designed to function. In grad schools, research teams discovered that synapses, the connections between nerves and their targets, are incredibly dynamic, driving home that at the subcellular level, our brains are made to change. Biologically speaking, the only thing human beings cannot do is not change. But as we have seen, people don't just change, we change them through our expectations and our actions. Ernest Hemingway once said the best way to find out if you can trust somebody is to trust them. He was half right. Trust doesn't just teach us about people, it changes them. In 2022, labs surveyed thousands of students using two sorts of questions. The first question asked about themselves. How much did they care about their peers and then enjoy helping other people and then want to connect with students that they didn't know? The second asked about their perception of the average Stanford student. We discovered not one, but two Stanfords. One was real, made up of students' self-reports. This campus was actually extraordinarily warm. 85% of students said they wanted to meet new friends. 95% said they enjoyed helping peers who were feeling down. The empathy was through the roof. Now, the second Stanford was a brittled, prickly place located in the students' minds. They believed that average peer was relatively unfriendly, judgmental, and callous. Now, students aren't alone. School systems were surveyed, government officials, and even international companies, and the same story emerges almost every time. The average person in each group is empathic and interested in supporting others. The imagined average is less kind, more competitive, or downright toxic. what psychology and brain science teaches about humanity. There's no tidy separation between self and other. Our species is intertwined such that helping others is a kindness to ourself, and watching over ourself actually supports others. Mutual aid could easily become a bigger part of our lives. Treat kids like the people we want them to be, not the ones we fear they will be. People fear and loathe rivals and increasingly avoid them. As people do interact less across political lines, we actually lose real-world knowledge about rivals. Now, that doesn't mean we stop thinking about them. The information vacuum fills with media and with our imagination. And as we have seen, both of these forces are dominated by negativity bias, and they tie us up towards cynicism. False polarization mixes negativity bias with ideology. And if I believe in something, my enemy must believe the opposite. These cynical misinterpretations obscure an entire landscape of national consensus. Instead of trying to be well-adjusted, King said we should pursue an alternative. Our world is in dire needs of new organization, he proclaimed, the International Association for the Advancement of Creative Maladjustment. Creative maladjustment, he explained, is a moral restlessness triggered by wrongdoing that actually propels social change. We have explored the power of hope to improve lives, relationships, and communities. But what if hope is just another path towards being well-adjusted, ignoring our many problems? Injustice, inequality, violence, cruelty, they're all real. They cannot be just washed away by the power of positive thinking. Perhaps cynicism is a badge of moral clarity. Now, this does make sense on the surface, but just like the cynical genius illusion, the idea that people who trust less are more clever falls apart when we look at it more closely. It is actually hope, the sense that things could improve in the future, mixed with fury, that actually inspires people to fight for progress, even when victory seems well out of reach. Billions of us are taught that life is a battle where winners take all and the losers are everywhere. Our trust and our hope are mocked as naive. By now you know better. You can stay skeptical and avoid knee-jerk assumptions about people. You can remember that the media warps our views of one another and then you look for better data. Most of all, you can realize that hope is not a weakness, but a path towards being less wrong and more effective. We can use that hope like a divining rod to look at others who want the same things we do, building solidarity and common cause. And there you have it, Hope for Cynics, the surprising science of human goodness. Now please do help out. It is easy. Simply like this video so more people can enjoy it. Share it too and spread the word. Do leave a comment and share your thoughts. Subscribe to my channel and stay up to date. The link to this book is in the description below, so buy it. Read. Never stop learning, especially learning about yourself and nature. So gift yourself by taking the free human needs test on my website and find out what actually motivates you, what innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. And if you feel you are ready to improve your self-awareness, your social awareness, your self-management, and your relationship management even further, do check out my Master of Life Awareness program. The links are in the description below. Thank you. Love and respect.